Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jeffrey and today I wanted to do something a little bit different than the usual personal knowledge management videos that I've been making for the last little while. Now, I read a lot of books in 2021, as you can see. I also include a link down in the description if you wanted to check out the books that I read and maybe follow me and be my friend on Goodreads. But I read a lot of books, read a lot of really good science fiction and fantasy books / series, and I wanted to share with everyone some of the best ones that I read and found out about last year. And I'm planning on doing another video where I talk about my favorite non-fiction books that I read in 2021. So this list is sort of in order. So let's dive in with book number 5 on my list. So number 5 on my list is The Wisdom of Crowds, which is the third book in the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Now, Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorite fantasy authors. His style is really kind of grim and dark and all about the shades of gray with the characters, with none of them really being all good or all bad. I like the depth that he has to the characters. Now, this is the second trilogy and the 9th book in this world that he has created that started out with the First Law trilogy, the first book being the Blade itself. If you haven't read the First Law trilogy, if you haven't read this book, I would highly suggest going out and checking out. But in the Age of Madness, it's kind of this world where magic is now leaving the world and it's becoming more advanced. It's kind of like at the age of the Industrial Revolution with factories and people being exploited, even children being exploited to work in these factories and people kind of uprising against that. A really cool backdrop for a fantasy series as it transitions from that typical high fantasy into something a bit more modern and exploring that kind of time period from a fictional lens. So, really good book. If you haven't checked out Joe Abercrombie, highly recommend doing so. Love his work. Now, number 4 on my list was a reread that I did last year, which is Dune, kind of in preparation for the new movie that came out this year. Now, I went and saw the movie with my wife. She hasn't read Dune before. I really liked the movie, but she didn't find it as good. I think there's a lot of things that you don't quite appreciate having not come from reading the book. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to, I would recommend that it's one where it is actually a better experience for the movie having read the book, instead of typically the movie doesn't do the book a good enough justice where you almost appreciate the movie more if you haven't read it. But Dune, I think, is one where you actually want to read the book before watching the movie. Now, this is a reread. Really enjoy this book. I actually tried reading more books in the Dune series. I got to Dune number 3, but I find the second and third one weren't as good as the first one. I just didn't care about the characters. I didn't care what happened. I found there was a disconnect between my emotional investment in the characters, and so I didn't continue on with the series past that. But I mean, Dune is just so good. I'll probably continue to reread it throughout the coming years. I mean, it's a pretty popular book. I'm not going to say much more about that. Now, number 3 on my list is a series. Actually, I think the next 3 on the list is a series instead of just a standalone book. And that is the Bobiverse We Are Legion, We Are Bob books. So this one starts out with modern day. This guy, Bob, signs up for having his brain frozen after he dies so that it can be kind of rebooted once the technology gets there. But he gets brought back in the future as a computer program that's going to be launched on a von Neumann probe, which is a probe that goes out into like another star system and builds copies of itself, and then it kind of spreads out to more star systems and builds copies of itself. And this is all about the adventures of all these Bobs going out into the universe. There's 4 books in the series so far. Really quick, fun, easy read, getting to explore different worlds, different ideas, the idea of what it means to be an individual, since Bob is going out and essentially cloning himself over and over again, and is he still Bob? So there's some interesting things to think about while reading this book, as well as being a really fun and fast-paced science fiction series. And I read all 4 in the series in 2021. It was that good. So if you haven't checked it out, check out the Bobiverse. So number 2 on my list is another trilogy. It's the 3-Body Problem. Now this one is another science fiction series where we encounter aliens, make contact, and they are coming to our solar system. But because of the relativistic distances, it's going to take a couple hundred years for them to get here. And the impact of knowing that this is coming, the impact that that has on our society and what we're going to do about it. It also introduced me in a really cool story way to the Fermi paradox and some potential solutions to the Fermi paradox. So for those who don't know, the Fermi paradox is, given the number of planets and star systems in our galaxy and the time scope that the universe has been around and the potential likelihood of life evolving, why have we not encountered another alien civilization? Why is there not already a galactic civilization running the Milky Way? Why don't we see aliens at every turn? And this trilogy has a very interesting take on a solution to that paradox. And actually, I'm glad that I didn't know much about it before I read it, because it added a little bit of suspense to how the story was going to unfold. So I think if you're a bit more in the dark about this stuff, it's actually a better read. Don't feel like you need to know much about this kind of stuff before diving into the book. Really cool book. And my favorite series from last year was the Cradle series by Will Witt. Now, I'll tell you how much I love this series. There are currently 10 books out for it, and I read all of them last year, with having started the first book in August. So in the last 5 months, I read the 10 books in the series. Now, they're all typically pretty short, around 300-400 pages, very fast paced. It's set in this world where people have access to kind of like magic through this core that they have, that they use to process the energy in the universe around them, and they kind of advance this core that they have through various levels, from being copper, iron, jade, and it continues to go up and up. And this one, the protagonist starts out as being unsouled, so he doesn't have a core, so to speak, so he's kind of shunned by his community at the beginning. And it's kind of like an underdog story, as well as there's a lot of parallels to productivity, because in this world, everyone is just trying to advance. They're just trying to get the next level. And it's kind of this hedonic treadmill where there's always another level that they have to try and get to as they are working through upgrading their cores. So it's really fun, really fast paced, really enjoyable read. It's just, I honestly, 10 books, like I wish there was another 10 for me to be able to read in this series. It was just so good. So if you haven't checked out the Cradle series, recommend checking it out. Also, if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, it is free to read. So that's my list. I'm going to put down in the description below Amazon links, Amazon affiliate links to all these books. So if you want to check them out, you can use my link. And let me know if you like this video, if you like me covering more of the books and things that I just enjoy rather than kind of doing tutorial or showcasing style videos for personal knowledge management. Yeah, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.